Hi, my name is Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Dice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by
Dean. David.
Paul, and we've just finished playing Glory to Rome, which is a multi-use card game tableau builder of sorts. And because it's multi-use, it's always very tricky to explain this one. Essentially, you have a hand of cards, and when it's your turn, you get to pick one of these and play the action. And for this, you're looking at the thing down the left-hand side. So in this case, it would be the Craftsman Action. And there's a nice little board they give you which summarises all the different actions. So I'll quickly explain these, but essentially what you're doing is trying to acquire resources. You can see these cards can also be at the bottom. You've got brick, wood, marble here, so they can be resources, and they can also be buildings. Each of these has a kind of building that you can build. This would increase my hand size. So depending on which action you're doing, you're thinking of the cards in different ways, so bear that in mind. So as you use the cards, you're going to run out. So one thing you can always do is just think, and you just draw up to your hand size of 5 on the pile. You have to do that occasionally. Labourer, you take a material from the pool. So every time you play a card, so maybe I play this and we do the action, after that, whatever card's been played goes into the middle and forms this pool. So you're kind of building up resources effectively. So this is now concrete, this is now brick, etc. And when you do the labourer action, you take something from the pool and you add it to your stockpile. So I might decide to take this as wood, and I could add it to my other wood here in my stockpile, which sits under my board. Legionary allows you to steal things from your immediate neighbours. So you play the card and you have to reveal something. So I play the labourer and I say, I really want wood, and I reveal that. And then Dean looks at his, and if he has any wood, he has to give me one. Paul looks at his and he'd have to give me a wood, and then potentially you can take wood from the middle as well. So that lets you acquire resources that way. Patron lets you take a card from the middle and add it as what's called a client here in your clientele, and it means when other people are doing actions, it's possible to follow. Now let me just explain how this works. Let's say Dean decides to take a Craftsman action. When it comes round, everyone has the opportunity to follow, and if you have a card in your hand, you can play it, and it means I can do the Craftsman when Dean's doing the Craftsman, so that's very useful. But what if you don't have the card? Well, if you put it here in your client, it allows you to follow anyway. If you do have the card, you get a kind of double follow and you get to do the action twice. So that's why the clientele are quite important. You have a Craftsman, just lets you add things to buildings. So, I said you can build these as buildings. So you would take the action and grab a foundation. You can see there's various types of foundations here. So you grab an appropriate foundation and stick it underneath. You can see here a couple I've done earlier. Once you've done the foundation, you then need a certain number of materials. So if it's concrete I want to build with, I need 2 additional concrete. So the other thing you can do with the Craftsman is if you have any concrete in your hand, you can use that to kind of build not the foundation rather, but the appropriate concrete card. You could shove it under, help build a building. The Architect is very similar, but it takes the things from your vault, all the ones down here, and uses the building materials to build the buildings. And finally, you can use the Merchant, which takes something from your stockpile, and you kind of turn it upside down, and the coins you can see here effectively like victory points. You turn it upside down and that'll be worth that many victory points at the end of the game. So those are your actions, but then in terms of the buildings really change the game. So when you build a particular building, if you've built enough materials underneath it, this becomes active and it does whatever its ability says. So in this case it means I'll be immune to the Legionary, and I get victory points for cards in my stockpile at the end of the game, so that's great. I'll put it over here. But then the actual building gets you victory points. So you can see these are all the buildings I previously built, and they're getting me victory points at the end. So, an awful lot to think about there. But essentially, you're trying to build the buildings, which gets you straight up VPs, as well as take things from your stockpile into your vault, which gets you VPs at the end. But then being able to combo the building special abilities appropriately is really the key to victory. There's some great combos you can come up with if you pick your cards right. But obviously it's very difficult each time, because from a hand of cards you've got to decide, do I want to use this for the resource, or for the building, or for the action? So lots of tricky decisions. What do we think?
It's nowhere near as complicated as that sounded. You've got a fairly limited things you can do on your turn. If you're not the leader, all you can do is follow or pass and fill up your hand size. If you're the leader, all you're doing is picking one role to play, which you can have thought about in advance. So it's got a lot of things going with it, but at any one time you're probably not trying to carry too many things in your head. So it's quite a complex game, but actually quite simple to play. I liked it. The multi-use cards take a little bit of getting used to, but a couple of turns and you're getting into the swing of it. The cards have got some amazing powers attached to them, such that there is no way you can sit there going, I am winning, all I've got to do is this till the end of the game, because there are cards that are instant win cards, there are cards that instantly end the game, there are cards that increase what you're doing, and suddenly you see somebody passing you like mad. I really liked it, it was good fun.
Dave?
Yeah, similar. It's one of those where it's pretty straightforward. Everything's color coded, so like the red stuff will help. The red stuff, you know, it's fairly easy to pick up because you're just looking for the colours and then kind of specifications within that. Yeah, it's a bit wonky. I won the game through a card that controlled the time limit. So obviously I'm not going to play that or finish it off until I know I probably win. And I did. But that's part of the game, you know, it's not like it's too long or difficult for that to be a bad thing. And there are more than one of that type of card, so there are different ways that people might kind of throw the balance out, and that's kind of interesting.
Paul?
I can't really add to what everybody else has said. It is a little bit wonky and it is a little bit overpowered. You can do wonderful things with combos, and once you get into the swing of it, it is very a simplistic one choice once you get used to the multiple cards. And as this is sort of one from my collection, I really like this game. I'm not good at this game. I lose more than I win, but it's still my favourite game just for the aesthetics, for the way everything looks when the board's complete, when it's all spread out. I think it's a very beautiful game. I would definitely give it an 8.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, good stuff.
D?
Yeah, I think I'd give it 7.5 to 8.
Okay. Yeah, I really like this one. It looks a bit dry, and there's a few of those multi-use card games out there. Some of them can be real brain burners sometimes, but this one, as they say, it's complicated to explain at first, but it is very straightforward when you're playing the game, because you have a relatively small hand of cards. Every now and then you get a building like, oh, this looks like a good building, I'll try and build this, but most of the time you're using the rest of the cards to take actions or follow people's actions. The following thing is really nice. You want to keep a selection of good cards in there, so you can always follow. The more actions you get to do, the better, obviously, but those clients then, being able to follow even if you don't have the cards, become really powerful. But at the end of the day, the game's like a race, because if you spend too long building your engine, the game's going to end and people are going to score points ahead of you. So it's lots to think about, fairly simple choices each time, but lots of combo possibility goodness. I really, really like this one. I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. Alright, thanks for watching. That was Glory to Rome.